So, Mum and Dad, welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to do a little history video today.
Right. What's the date today? 4th, isn't it?
4th of June.
4th of June, 2017.
So, 2017. And we're going to try and start in 1943.
Yeah, the year I was born.
20th of August, 1943. The world changed forever.
Certainly did.
Where were you born, Dad?
I was born in Punch Bowl,
You weren't. You were born in St Margaret's.
St Margaret's Hospital, that's correct. But we lived in a suburb called Punch Bowl, in between Wiley Park and Punch Bowl, on the boulevard, 140. A single frontage brick home, only 2 bedrooms. Just my eldest brother, Alan, and later on, 9 years after I was born, brother Bruce comes along. And so the 3 of us shared the one bedroom. We had double-decker beds. And I was up top. And but it was okay, it was good. Very cosy.
What sort of work did your dad do?
Dad was, he was called Arthur Ronald Everett, but he preferred Ron instead of Arthur, so everyone called him Ron. And he was born in 1916, and he's one of, I think, 12 or 13 in his family, brothers and sisters. He was about the, I think, the third or fourth eldest. And they were also born in Punch Bowl.
He was a male nurse, wasn't he?
He was a male nurse, yes. He served his time with his father as a bricklayer. But in those days, and also still today, a bricklayer never got paid when it was raining. So therefore you had a young family, and you couldn't afford to have, and a mortgage, you couldn't afford to have any time off. So he had to get a job where he was had regular income. So he took a job as in Lickham State Hospital, and then they trained him up to be a male nurse, and they were looking after alcoholics in those days, and that's where he worked for a number of years, and when he had to do morgue duty, and that upset my mother because she could smell that on him when he came home. So then, therefore, he went out onto what they call the Outstar, and he was driving the truck picking up the supplies in Sydney. And we used to pick us up on school holidays and take me with him.
Wow.
For work. It was good. I enjoyed it.
So what would be your earliest memory as a child?
My earliest memory would be, I suppose, when I first started school, and I went to a school at Wiley Park, which was very close to school. We could walk to school, and in kindergarten, I remember the first week or so that I was in class at lunchtime. My father used to, I'd be sitting down on the seat by myself, and Dad would poke his head over the fence and call me over, and he'd have a pie for me. So that was one of the earliest times that I can remember. That was, geez, I must have been only about 5, a bit over 5 and a half, in the early school days. And other than and that, we had a pretty good life when we were younger. Yeah, in Punch Bowl, very quiet, very good suburb, very friendly, a lot of mates. We all played cricket in a street called Robertson Street, and we used to play cricket and play tennis on the road because there wasn't much traffic in those days. We used to play marbles on the side of the road. It was all our activities were in the street, playing in the street.
And cricket was your thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, we used to play cricket. Yeah.
Cricket.
Yeah.
Later on in life.
Yeah.
My school,
Yeah, cricket was. I used to play for Punch Bowl district, and Dad was our coach, and he used to drive us in the old. Our first car we had was a 1936 Plymouth, and we all used to pile into that, and Dad used to take us to the to cricket, and so I represented Punch Bowl, and then at school I got into the state school team, and I played in. Had to go to Wagga and play the district schools down there, which we won, and then the following year I got into the same team again, the Sydney district school team, and we played Newcastle. And I had to travel too, when we played at Wagga, I had to travel down to Wagga with the team in the old steam train, and which was exciting. And we were billeted in a house down there with another member of the opposite school team. And I remember I got hit between the legs with a cricket ball, which was very, very most uncomfortable. And that was pain that I've never ever experienced.
We'll edit that one out.
Since then. But
No serious damage done.
no serious damage done. I've got 2 kids to prove that.
That could be all my problems. Mum, 1945, 18th of April.
Yes, I was born at Haberfield at a private hospital called Kiora, which is it's a New Zealand salutation. I lived with Nana and Grandad at 6 Marmion Road, Abbotsford, in Sydney. It was a big family. At one stage, sort of being just after the war, there were up to 17 of us living at this residence. Wow. Auntie Kitty, Nana's sister and husband and her 3 children, they moved up because of some circumstances, and there was no room in the house because we had great-grandfather living there also, and everyone that got married stayed at home, and there was beds and everywhere, and Auntie Kitty and Uncle Phil, they lived with their children. They put a tent up in the backyard, and they lived in there. Wow. Because, it was hard times. There was still rationing after the war. Bunurong was always breaking down. We're always cooking in the yard because the electricity was always breaking down. Anyway, let me see now. I started school at 4 at All Hallows in Halley Street at 5 Dock. I love school. I just couldn't wait to get there. I always remember Mum saying, "Oh, I sent you up in the prettiest little pale pink dress." And she said, when I went up to pick you up, she said to Sister, "Where's Ruth?" And she said, "Wait till I show you." And she said, "You came around the corner." She said, absolutely, completely black. You'd been rushing and running around everywhere, falling over. She said your face was all dusty and dirty. She said, and there was these big tear marks down through the dirt on your face. But anyway, so I stayed there until, there was a little bit of moving around, but it's not necessary to go into that. But from there I went to Domremy College. This is the high school at 5 Dock. Loved it there. It was beautiful school, beautiful order of nuns. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Then we moved in the 1st of May 1959. We moved to Woy Woy, Ettalong, and lived at 55 Coleraine Street. It was good from the point of view that we were always at the beach. I mean, we were just water rats. We just loved the water. Didn't like the school up here all that much, but suffered through like you have to. My first job was working for AC Robertson Proprietary Limited. I started there on Thursday, the 3rd of December 1959. I'd become very skilled in typing. This building contractor, it was a temporary position. Most jobs were temporary in those days because it wasn't a big flourishing commercial area then, more of just a fishing village. And I typed the specifications for the Florida Hotel, which has been pulled down, and now the Crown Plaza sits there. And there was the Curry Hospital, the Round Anglican Church in Gosford, up near the police station, and the Costa Brava Hotel, a motel in Wyoming. They're the ones that I can remember. But see, I only stayed there till about April, and then I left from there. It was disconcerting having to sort of leave jobs. I had several jobs after that, but they were like, next one after that was for a real estate agent called Sherwood Forest Developments. They were only open for 7 weeks, and then I lost that job because they went broke and closed down. Local jobs, yeah. This is in West Street at Yamina. It'd be, where the video shop is down in Yamina. That'd be the area where it was, and after that I got a job at Roberts Bus Service up in Gosford, North Gosford, and I was only there for maybe a few months, and then the end of the financial year came, and they had to get rid of some staff, and I was the last one on, so I was the first one off, and half of other people went. So Mum and I just decided we were fed up with this temporary situation. It just wasn't suitable, so we hopped on the train. Mum was looking for work. We hopped on the train and we went to Sydney, and we just with the Herald, Sydney Morning Herald, and we were looking for work in that. And we went and ended up both getting a job in the same office in the country orders section at Marcus Clark's. And then I stayed there for about a year. Then I left there to start Mothercraft Nursing at St Anthony's Home at Croydon. Yes.
So what would your wage have been?
Well, when I worked my first job at AC Robertson's, my first wage was £5.09, which is $10.10. I had to pay Nana £2 rent. I had to give my mother £1. I had £1 for which is $2, of course, for transport to get to work, and then I was left with $2 over to play with. And Mum insisted I put 10 shillings of that in the bank. So I didn't sort of have many clothes, or certainly didn't spend the money like the young ones do today. Now you've diverted me now. So
Actually, I want to ask Dad, what was your first job when you left school?
I left school. I got an apprenticeship as a boilermaker welder on the railway, and I worked there. And when I finished my time there, I took a job with the Department of Public Works as a structural steelwork inspector. Structural steelwork auger at Leichhardt Depot, and we worked on portal frames and stuff like that for schools. And then a a job came up where they wanted to train steelwork inspectors to inspect structural steelwork for government projects. So I applied for the job, and it was about 4 or 5 of us applied for the job, and I was lucky enough to get one of the jobs. So there was only 2 vacancies, or 2 new positions, and so I got one of them, which was what I call a permanent position, which was very good. So we had to do training. You had to work as a steelwork inspector in the foundries for a couple of years, inspecting cast iron fittings and whatnot. And then you had to do so long on pipes out at Stanton, out at Fairfield. After I finished doing the cast iron fittings at Bankstown. And then we had to do a number of years on steel pipes at steel mains, which was good because that I got a job. You know, had to go down to interstate in Victoria where they're making pipes for us there, and also up to Queensland. And during that time, I worked on all the pipe work for Woy and Gosford water supply. And then the department were very good to work for. I really enjoyed my position there because if you wanted to learn anything or do a course, they're only too pleased to send you off to the course. Anyway, I was very fortunate enough, which made me feel very proud, that I was asked to do the inspection on the Sydney Opera House when that first started up. So, and that was, the steelwork was being fabricated out at Arcos, out at, where was it, Fairfield I think it was, yeah. And I had to go out there every day and inspect the steelwork, and then as the steelwork was being fabricated, I had to inspect the industrial coatings on it, and then when it was, I had to go down to the site where it was and inspect the fitting up of the steelwork. And I remember one afternoon, that was I can still remember the time. It was 2 o'clock, and I was up in the roof of the large arches and all the sails, and I was inspecting all the connections of the trusses which were supporting all the stage work and whatnot, and there was an opening which led out onto the sails, and before they closed it up, I managed to climb through it, and I climbed right up. There was like a little passageway, a little handrail, and you had to go on your hands and knees, and I crawled all the way up, right up to the top peak of the main sail, and took photos, and I couldn't turn around. You had to reverse all the way back down again. And I'll tell you what, it was the most well, it was very thrilling, but it was very scary as well. You know, especially you look down, you look as though you're hanging from the bottom of a plane, you're so high up, and it was, and every time now every time I see the Opera House, I look at that point and think, geez, I've been right at the far end of that point, and there would be very few people that have can say that they've been right at the end of that arch on the Opera House. Yeah, so that was one of the things. But my job took me all over the state and interstates, Victoria, Queensland, and I really loved my job. I looked at structural steelwork in hospitals, Prince of Wales, Tamworth Hospital, and then I got on to doing steel reservoirs, inspecting steel reservoirs and pipelines, water filtration plants.
Mangrove Creek Dam.
Mangrove Creek Dam was a big job.
Burrinjuck Dam, to trifurcate.
Yes, it was a lot of very exciting work that I can, and when I drive around this area now, I look at tanks, and especially in the Wyong area, and tanks that I built over the many years, brings back a lot of good memories. But yeah, no, and also then I took a job, part-time job, teaching up at Gosford Tech, back in the what was it, the 80s, I think I was there. teach there for about 7 or 8 years.
1974 you started there?
1974, thank you, Ruth. And yeah, so that was, well, for a number of years, I think about 8 years or 9 years, I taught advanced welding, pressure welding at Tech there. It was very, very good. And that was 2 nights a week. I had theory on Thursday nights, I think, and practical on Wednesday nights. And had a class of roughly about 12 to 13. And that was very, very good. And yeah, so my work career was very satisfying. And,
So, Mum, just go back a bit. When you did first meet Dad, do you remember the day you first saw him?
Yes, I was, Mum and Les had come up to visit Mum, whom she eventually married, and I was living at 79 Springwood Road, Ettalong, and
Which just happens to be around the corner.
yes, that's right. But Les said, we're all going to the beach, do you want to come? I said, no, I'm just going to sunbake in the backyard. And he said, oh, well, Colin and Alan will be up today. He said, when they get here, tell them we'll be right in front of the surf club. Just pass the message on, tell them how to get here. So I got up and they came around the side and I gave them the message, just said how to get up to where they were. And they left in a little Triumph car, and I went back to my golden tan. Yes.
And you remember that day, Dad?
I certainly do. I remember pulling up out the front, and Al and I walked around the back, and Ruth and Patricia were sunbaking back on their towels, and Alan asked them, like where was they told us where to go, and when I got back in the car, I said to Alan, I said, geez, she was beautiful, really lovely. I said, look, I'm going to marry that woman. He just laughed, so you're joking. I said, no, I'm going to marry her. And sure enough, took a long while, but I finally...
You played hard to get, Mum?
Oh, well, no, not really. No, I didn't play hard to get. Colin was a very shy young man, and when Mum married Les and moved down to McGirr Street in Padstow, Colin was around like almost every night, but he was always, it was just Les and Colin's head stuck in the engine of a car, and I just thought, oh, well, Les was his cousin, and I thought, oh, he was just coming around doing blokey things, and I didn't think he was interested in me. But, yeah, so apparently then Mum, I think Les talked about me and said, Colin said, oh, he'd like to take her out. And he told Mum, and Mum said to me, Colin's wondering if you'd like to go out, if he could ask you out. And I said, oh, yeah, and I was really surprised because I didn't think he was interested in me. And so we started going out, and first date was to the drive-in to see Sophia Loren in Two Women, and so yes, it was good.
At the back of us.
Yes, oh well, that was just nothing.
First kiss?
Oh, well, I'll tell you what. The first kiss that was something else. You know, I was going out with him for ages, and I'd go into work and I'd say to this senior lady I was working with, I said, you know, I've been going out with him for 3 or 4 weeks, and I said, he hasn't even kissed me good night yet. And this went on and on. It took him 4 months before he'd kissed me good night, because I found out later he said no. I said I wasn't going to waste my time kissing someone that I wasn't going to marry. He said I just wanted to be absolutely certain that I was going to marry you. He said, and then I'd kiss you, but I wasn't going to waste my time kissing other girls.
First time I kissed a girl.
Really?
Yeah, first time I kissed a girl. I'd taken a girl that from around the local girl around the street, Faye Thompson. I took her out a couple of times, but
you were more or less asked to there because it was a wedding, wasn't it?
I can't remember.
Yes.
But anyway, I never kissed her, and then when I started taking Ruth out, we used to go to drive-ins, Shallora Drive-In, and what's the other one, the Carring Bay Drive-In, and Ruth's mother said I had to get her home by 12 o'clock at the latest, and I was only allowed to come over on Wednesday nights and Friday nights and Saturday nights, and because Ruth had to get up and go to work in the morning, so it was very strict.
How old were you?
I was 18 then.
Yeah, and I was only 19 or another 19.
Well, you're about 2 years older than me, so you'd have been 20.
Yeah. So then we went to what used to go to Shallora Drive-ins. That was our main area we went to, and now we used to go to Carring Bay Drive-In. We used to pull into Tom Oakley's Bridge and get a hamburger for tea, and that was.
Weekends we'd go to the beaches or go out to Cobbitty and swim in the weir.
Yeah.
Just down to Kangaroo Valley, and and we'd go shooting sometimes. Cause it's something that all girls really love to go shooting.
Oh, we used to go shoot rabbiting. Yeah, it was good pastime. Yeah.
Different from today. Very different.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, very different today.
So the proposal, where did it take place?
Well, we went every now and again. We used to go into town and watch a movie, in town, and have tea in town. And this time I thought, well, this would be the ideal spot to propose.
So you've been thinking about it?
I've been thinking about it, yeah. And
since he saw me when walking around the side sunbaking.
Yeah, so I was convinced that she's the girl for me. So I thought, well, now I'll propose. And we had dinner, and then I asked her, Ruth, would you marry me? And she paused for a while, and she said yes. So, and that was it. So we went to the show, and it was very good. So everything said no. And 12 months later, we got married.
Did you know that he was going to propose?
Oh, well, no, I didn't really, because I had to wait for 4 months for the first kiss. So I thought I might be having to wait for God only knows how long for a proposal of a marriage. So I just learned to hold my breath a long time with Cole.
Yes, then we decided then to pick out a ring, and got the engagement. We were engaged for 12 months, and and then we decided to picked a marriage date in June, the
11th.
Shortest day and the longest day of the year.
And everybody complained because it was the Queen's birthday weekend and they couldn't go away.
But anyway, it was very, very good. I enjoyed it.
We loved our wedding. I didn't want a big wedding. In fact, I'd have been just happy to have gone up to the church and got married quietly with Colin. But it would have hurt my mother if I'd done that. So I said, I just really don't want a big wedding. I've never enjoyed weddings. We just all came back to Mum's house. It was only just immediate family and Cole's next door neighbours and a friend of mine that I rang.
My uncles.
Yeah, well, that was family love.
Yeah.
And there was the girl that sang at my wedding, a friend of mine, her boyfriend, and it was just family. And I think there was 35 people there. And I just loved it. I just totally loved it,
And The honeymoon.
Honeymoon, yes. We took off in the old Austin A40 and we're going to go to Queensland. And the first night we stayed at Cooper's Nook in a caravan.
There was a cyclone.
Yeah.
It was shocking.
And the old caravan, she was swaying backwards and forwards. And I remember getting up during the night and I put on Ruth's slippers, her new slippers, and buggered them up. And so other than that, we took off. We got as far as Nambucca Heads, and we decided, well, that was far enough.
Far enough for our poor old car.
So then we stayed in a caravan there, and
we liked it. It was sort of
good.
Just like it was right on the river, and we hired got a little tinny, and we just fished and just like the type of holidays I had when I was a kid at Ettalong and Ettalong Beach. I was just really contented with that. You know, there was an RSL club or some sort of thing up there, and but it was very, very countrified then, and but it was just really nice and relaxing. And we only stayed away for a week, and then we were quite happy. We came home and got into going back to work, and all that life started resuming.
We rented a flat in King Street, Asheville, which was close to my work, where I worked at Leichhardt, and Ruth worked in town. So it was very central, and we were there for how long, look? A couple of years, were you?
Oh, about 3 years.
About 3 years. We saved up to buy a block of land and have a house built. And
well, we already were paying. We had land up at Camden, and then you turned around and said, "I've decided not to build at Camden because you've got to go all the way into Campbelltown just to get to the station." And he said, "We're going to move on the line up Woy Woy. We're going to go up there on the weekend and have a look." So we went up there and we bought number 1 Walford Street and built the house, 3-bedroom. Alf Piper built it, and it was good. We were very happy with it. After a very small flat, a 3-bedroom house was quite huge. But and it was good. Colin could just sort of go anywhere because a lot of his work, you know, he'd have to go by train up to, what was that train you used to get?
Well, the motor rail.
The motor rail, go up to Lismore. I mean, he'd be out at Broken Hill. He'd be, you know, all over. So, and that was just central. And so that was good. And he could walk to and from the station. Didn't even need the car because he had his works car.
Yeah, I had to do a week in the area, Gosford and Wyong area, checking schools and all, working in that area. And then the next week I had to do my country area, which was virtually the whole state. So I'll be away for a whole week. I'd leave on Monday morning and come home Friday evening. And and Ruth would want to go out for tea, but still I wanted a home cooked meal. I got sick and tired of eating in restaurants and clubs and that, so I always just wanted to get home and enjoy a nice home cooked meal. But yeah, and the kids used to come racing out to me as soon as I come home. Oh, Daddy's home, and yeah. So they were good days, and.
Yes, you were born on 13th February 1971. 8.5 pound footling bridge. Ouch. But you're a beautiful baby. Absolutely beautiful. I always remember one of the Greek cleaners mopping around, and I was pushing you past her in the little trolley, little bed, and she said, "Oh, she has skin like a petal," you know. So you were really lovely, and you were the joy of my life, I can assure you. Just couldn't believe that I was so clever that I could make something like that.
A big crop of hair.
Yes.
Most hair I've ever seen on a baby.
Not just on my head, apparently.
Yes, oh well, babies have little tufts of hair here and there, and so yeah, bit on your back, and that's just normal.
Yes, and then come along Adam.
1973.
1973, yeah. And I remember I was working out at Barrenjoey High School, doing a job there, and I got the word that Ruth was taken to hospital, and I had to. I raced home, and I remember getting out to pulling into your mother's place first.
Well, look, do you know what? I'm going to interrupt and correct you here, Colin. I know I shouldn't do it, but Adam was overdue, so Dr. Morton said, I'm going to induce you. I said, that's good because my husband's got to go away somewhere for a couple of weeks soon. So next day, you took me somewhere up the Yarramalong Valley. There was a job you were looking at. I was sitting there sweltering, no air conditioning in those days, as big as a barge. And I had to wait. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon before you drove me to the hospital, dumped me off, went home, and went to work next day. And you were climbing all over because the school hadn't officially opened. Doctor was ringing and trying to trace this Barrenjoey High School, and he said to me, Mrs. Everett, there's no such place as Barrenjoey High School. I said, yes, there is. I said they're building it. And Colin came home and went around to Mum's place and had tea there, and Patricia found out first that I'd had the baby, but they wouldn't tell her what the sex of the baby was because Colin didn't know. So she came tearing around and she burst in. She said, what is it? Is it a boy or a girl? And Colin's eating away there. I don't know yet, he said. It hasn't been born. And she said, he was born at it was born at 25 past 3 this afternoon. Oh, so Colin gets up and charges to the first phone and gets the information. So the way your mind fogs up over the years.
Oh yes, my memory's not as good as yours, darling. And yes, but I remember going in and seeing him. He was bawling his head off.
I have very fond memories of school holidays and boating trips.
Yeah, the caravan.
The caravan and the boat.
Yes, the caravan came in very handy because when I got jobs away, I was going to be away for
like up to 4 months down at Mathaura and Cobram.
Yeah, well, that was good. We took the van down. I took the kids down there, and they were in local schools. And it was I just finished one job, and then another job cropped up just on the border of Victoria and New South Wales, a place called Cobram, and which is just on the Victorian side. And it was so we packed the van up and moved down there, and so we're away for about approximately 3 months, and so that way the van came in good. And another time
we went down on the 28th of March and came back on the 20th of August, your birthday.
Just goes to show you what a good secretary I got. She can remember all of these things.
Right.
And then we the next time we went down to Lake Conjola, Fisherman's Point, wasn't it? There's a reservoir down there I was building, and we're down that, and you came down there on the long weekends, and Lake Conjola, and swimming and fishing in the lake.
But we had the boat too, the Seahawk.
Oh yeah, we had the Seahawk. We used to go out in that, and so
Half-tide rock.
Half-tide rock fishing at half-tide rock. Yeah, I used to go outside fishing in it, and that. So we're good days. The caravan and the boat.
Mm-hmm. We had lots of fun times, trips to the snow as well. We went to the
Oh yes, trips to the snow. That time I had a beard, little goatee beard in those days, ginger beard.
So looking back on everything, what would you say would be the happiest moment in your life?
Besides getting married and having the kids, I suppose the biggest satisfaction was in my work career is working on the Opera House. It was such a big thing in those days, the Opera House. The Opera House lottery was a huge amount of money, which actually paid for the building of the Opera House, and it was a job that had a lot of prestige with it, but it was just on site. It was like a city being built. There was just contractors and tradesmen and people everywhere, and
Like an anthill.
yeah, it was like an anthill, and just people you could get yourself lost in the job. And I remember one job at Horny Brooks were the main builders, and they had a little fabricating shop out at Enfield, and they used to do a lot of small work, and the main project manager, he got in touch with Horny Brooks, and they wanted a couple of welders to go up there and do a bit of small work. Anyway, and they arrived on site and they were doing their work, and I had to go. I think it was about 8 months later. I had to go out to Horny Brooks at Enfield and check out on some work that was being done out there. And I remember the foreman there said, we sent a couple of welders down there. He said, about 8 months ago. He said, have they finished their work? And I said, that work was finished months ago. And he said, well, why aren't the men back here? I said, well, I don't know. So anyway, they had out these two welders. When they finished doing the work there, no one told them what to do, so they just wandered around the site and were underneath the Opera House fishing and whatnot at the time of their life. But that just shows you how there's so many contractors and so many trades.
It became ungovernable, like Rome.
You couldn't keep track of it all, and we had three clerk of works down there, and I worked in with the architects and these three clerk of works, but it was just so busy, and trying to find your way around the place, you can certainly get lost in the place. And
As satisfying as your job was, it almost actually ended your life. You almost didn't get that far. You had a huge work accident.
Oh, yes,
5 weeks after we were married.
Yeah, that was back on when I was on the tools. Yes, I remember that afternoon. It was late in the afternoon, and I had a young apprentice with me, and we're working on this truss. And I said to this young apprentice, I said, look, before you knock off, I said, hang that truss up vertical so I can weld the ends. I said, and that'll finish it, yeah. And he said, yeah, okay. So I walked away to do something. When I came back, the truss just tipped over and just fell straight on top of me, and one of the purlin cleats hit me on the head and put a crack in my skull, and
like an eggshell.
Opened it up, and next minute I knew I was laying on the ground, and the first aid bloke came over, and they had to more or less take him away. He was hopeless, and they called for an ambulance, and they rushed me off to hospital. And the foreman there, he said to apparently I found out later on, he said to the ambulance, how is he? And he said, he's not good. He's not good. So they rushed me to Western Suburbs Hospital, and they left me outside the operating theatre. And the doctor that was operating there that particular day was Dr. Waddington. And a nursing sister told me that just before when I left the hospital, she said, you're a very, very lucky man. And I said, why is that? She said, if you would have come here any other day except Wednesday, she said, when Dr. Waddington is operating, he said, he's the best surgeon we've got. She said, you wouldn't be here now. And Oh, geez. So, and I remember waking up in hospital, and I remember I was unconscious there for quite a long, might have been a day, and I remember the two chaps talking opposite me, and one of them says, "Oh, how's the young fellow over there?" And I said, "Oh, he's not too good. They don't expect him to live." And that just sent shudders in me, and then every day I was getting these sharp pains in my head. And the doctor Waddington kept on, when he came and did his rounds, he said, "You getting any pain?" I said, "No, I'm getting pain." He said, "Oh, yeah, okay." So after about 3 days, he said, "Why aren't you getting those pains? You said we're getting pains." I said, "Oh, I've been getting them for 3 days." And this sister said to me, "Why didn't you tell the doctor?" And I said, "Oh, well, I heard that you didn't expect me to live." And she said, "Where did you hear that?" And I said, "Oh, there's two chaps across from me." And she glared at these two chaps. That yes, I remember that. And apparently they took a splinter of steel from my brain, which had pierced the brain. And I remember I started to go numb all down the left hand side. It was creeping down into my leg and into my arm, and all night I kept on squeezing my hand. I could feel all my left hand side going dead, and this is because the right side of the brain was damaged, and then it just stopped, just disappeared. And I woke up one morning, it was as good as gold. And the doctor told me that was just a point when you could have been paralysed permanently down the left hand side. The body was just healing itself.
So 5 weeks just married, Mum. Do you remember getting that phone call?
Oh yes, the managing director or whoever he was drove down to where I was working and to pick me up and told me what had happened and drove me out to the hospital. And then I just had to sit there in the waiting room. I was allowed in for a minute to see him, and then I had to come outside because I broke down when I saw him. And then I had to sit outside till, oh gosh, I don't know, it was quite late at night, and then they put him down in this corridor. It was a corridor, like, actually it wasn't near the operating room, but anyway. And he was in horrendous pain, and oh, it was horrible. I remember that gauze they had on his head came off, and I could actually see his brain because his head was open like this, you know. But anyway, Dr. Waddington did a very good job.
Family, didn't they?
Yeah, oh yes, they came after they'd had their tea and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, they're a family that looks after themselves. And so, yeah, so that was it. And Colin wasn't, no, he didn't go back to work.
For months.
I think it was about the following February. This was about July that he had the accident, early in July. 66, and it wasn't till the following year in February or so that he was allowed to go back to work. So anyway, but that's all done.
I've had no life perfection.
I was told that he could be paralysed, that I had to expect that he'd be paralysed from the neck down for the rest of his life, and he'd virtually only be a head, and if that didn't happen, that he would be an imbecile, like he'd have no, he'd be just a body, just, you know. So it wasn't sort of very good news at all, and so knocking on heaven's door.
Well, when I came out of hospital, I wasn't allowed to be left alone because I could take epileptic fit. So a period of there, I think 2 weeks, father used to come and pick me up and take me home. So mum could keep an eye on me and then drop me back overnight. But I never had any epileptic fits, so I was lucky. So yeah, I've been good ever since.
Massive escape.
Having a thick skull.
Looking back on your life now at 72, who would you say was the person who most influenced you in your life?
Most influenced me, well, there's several people that did in certain areas. Not, you know, my father was. I absolutely adored my father. He he taught me to pray. He used to have me praying right when I was a little tiny thing, you know, less than two. He used to take me to church. He taught me respect. Um, you know, we had. He used to always say we were cobbers, and he used to take me fishing. I'd go crabbing with him down at Booker Bay, the wharf that used to be down there. You might remember the remains of it, Colin. And we used to catch huge crabs down there, and because we had wood fires in Coleraine Street then, you know, to cook with, the Kookaburra, and I used to go out with him every other day, you know, to find trees and chop trees down and get wood and do things like that, you know, and like from an emotional point of view, he was the love of my life.
Definitely a daddy's girl.
Yeah, first man I ever loved, and that's always important to anybody. Now, you know, my grandmother, for instance, she taught me to be strong. Certainly taught me housekeeping, um, and to be what's the word I'm trying to think of? To be brave, like to never give in. You never back down. You never give in. You know, like I said to you one day, you know, Hitler had dropped the bombs on you, and you'd grab them and throw them back at Hitler. That attitude, like you don't give in. You never ever give in, and so yes, that Nana certainly had an influence on me like that. Then there was a nun at school, Sister Benedicta. She was a very cross little thing, but she was a very good teacher, and she really inspired me to for ancient history. I just loved it, and I also I loved composition. I was very good at writing. I could write stories and have. And I remember one nun saying to me, you know, you'd be given a subject, 3 subjects to choose from, and write a story on it, a composition, and earliest recollections of my childhood. And so I thought, well, nothing much, you know. So I just made up my own story, and I can always remember her correcting the work in the classroom while we were doing something else, and she looked up and she said, "Ruth, my dear," she said, "I had no idea you lived in the outback when you were a child, when you were a little girl, you know." And I said, "Oh, I didn't," you know. But you know, Sister Benedicta and Sister Martin, they, from an intellectual point of view, they were quite remarkable.
And because you continued studies again later in life, didn't you?
Oh yes, yes, I did. I know when the horrible news that my mother had cancer and she was going to die came along, I just sort of felt very shattered and shaky inside, and I just didn't know how I was going to cope. And Mum's illness took 5 years before the Lord finally took her home. And I thought, I've got to do something really, like this fight, this grab the bomb and throw it back. And I had to have something to do with my head, with my brain. So I enrolled at university, and I thought I'd just, do, say, a year just to sort of stabilise myself in my head. But I just found I just absolutely loved study so much, and I was so interested. Every subject that when I had to choose what subject to sort of embark on, I wanted to do everything, and there was nothing that I didn't want to do. And Colin said to me, "Do what makes you happy." And so I thought back to Sister Benedicta, and I knew I could write, so I chose. I majored in anthropology and classical studies. I did a few other subjects, just a couple of other minors that I knew could be helpful in my anthropology, particularly, and I just loved it. And when we finished, I had plans. I'd accumulated a lot of work because I'd known the subject that the area that I wanted to work on, and it wasn't sort of that far away from home. And I was going to go to New Guinea, and for 12 months field work and do a comparative analysis between two particular groups in New Guinea over the effects that Christianity had had on their societies since Europeans had ensconced themselves in the area, and they were miles apart. They never had anything at all to do with each other, and yet a lot of their religious and societal practices were the same, and yet they'd never ever had anything to do with each other. But anyway, so that was it. And anyway, we decided to move. Colin wanted to go up to Crystal Creek and buy some property, etc. And I wasn't 25 anymore, and he was very, very worried about me going up there and it is dangerous, and it's far more dangerous even now than what it even was then. So I thought, well, if he came home and said, "Oh, I've got a job and I'm going to go and work in Iraq," I know how I'd feel. So I thought, I can't do it to him. So anyway, we went, and I just threw the towel in on the idea, but I don't regret the time. I really enjoyed it.
Well, you've got a degree now, and you did incredibly well in that.
Yes. No, I did get good marks, which I was very pleased with. But yes, I'd like to do it all over again. More subjects.
Dad, through your life, looking now at your age, who would you say would have had the most influence in your life?
Well, overall, it would have been my father. But when I was in serving time on the railway, chap I used to work with, his nickname was Pineapple because he had a rough head. Bill Franklin was his name, and he encouraged me and helped me a lot. And then when I became an inspector with the public works, the senior inspector, a chap called Laurie Stewart, he was a great influence on me as well in my work. But my father was very, very good. He gave me a lot of good advice, and it's all come true, his advice that he gave me, and it's helped me to be what I am today, really, with his advice. If I hadn't had that advice, well, goodness knows where I could have ended up.
He was a very ethical man.
So, so that was, yeah.
Okay, so you've got your two children.
Grandparents. Okay.
1995.
Yes.
The 9th
9th of April. On the 8th of April, we were down in Goulburn because your cousin Melissa was getting married. You couldn't come because you were in hospital. Or I don't think you.
No, I wasn't.
Anyway,
I was just
but the thing is, we went down anyway, and then we came back next day, and I just lay down in the bed. I felt real exhausted after the evening before, and the phone rings, and Karen's there on the phone saying, "Oh, what you doing, Mum?" I said, "Oh, nothing, love, and I was so tired, I could hardly talk." And she said, "Oh, I just thought you'd like to come down and have a look at your granddaughter." And I got such a shock. I said, "Colin, the baby's here." And so we went chuffing down to the hospital and went racing through. And here I find this most gorgeous little baby I've ever seen in all my life. She was just, I couldn't believe it. She was just so lovely. And such a madam she grew up to be, like just, I'll never forget, like little things that come to my head, like she's sort of a bit like me.
So this is Amber we're talking
We're talking about Amber, yeah, and I can remember I said something. She was very little. She was wasn't really quick with her speech, and I can remember I said something. This was in Dunalban Street, and she didn't approve of whatever it was that I said, and she just leaned against the wall, and I could see the wheels turning. And she said, "Nana," not as clearly as this, "you go home and make Poppy's lunch." In other words, POQ. Look, I couldn't believe, that she even had the guts to turn around and talk to an adult like that. But it was so funny. It really was funny.
And I know one of your favourite stories with Amber relates to ice cream.
Oh yes. Well, I took her shopping. She was in the little seated trolley things, and I said to Karen, "Can I buy her an ice cream?" Yeah, yeah. So anyway, we're pushing around past this ice cream bar, and I pushed up to it, and I have never ever seen such an absolutely beautiful display of splendiferous joy on any baby in my life. I can't do it because I'm going to feel silly on the camera doing it, but she got so excited. She was waving her hands and she's getting excited, and they gave me a bib to put her around her, and she just couldn't stop glowing with this joy. And there was an old lady standing there, and she was looking at it, and she said, "Gee," she said, I can't believe it." She said, "I've never seen such a joyful child in all my life." And she said, "Over an ice cream." But it was just absolutely wonderful. I'd have given anything to have had a camera to have taken the film of it. It was something so nice. No baby ever since the beginning of time could have replaced that particular scene.
She used to get excited whenever she was excited. She'd go with her hand.
Yeah. When the clock went, you remember when my clock used to chime?
Yeah.
But and I know I can remember when she was little, very very tiny like that, and I can remember several times. Like she, Daddy was a big thing, like it always is to children. And anyway, Karen and I were busily talking about something, and we wanted to ask Bradley something, and Bradley came in from work, and I'll never forget, like when we were children, we were sort of more or less ignored, we weren't important or anything. But I remember Bradley came in, and Amber goes up and she'd go, and she's trying to find the words at what she wants to say, but and Bradley just bent down on the floor and just squatted right down and just nobody existed. Karen and I didn't know what we were talking about or anything, but all the attention that he gave this little girl, I thought she's going to grow up really confident, you know, because he and the way and the time he took and listening to it, and it was a really special moment that I've always remembered. That Bradley, you're a good father, lovely when they were little, you know. But yeah, and so then the lad comes along, Jacob. Oh,
The
15th of November, isn't it? Yes, 96. I say, Mum didn't get to see poor little Jakey, you know.
No.
Which was sad, and he was lovely. He was our little frog man. He's just like a little frog when you held him up, and he was absolutely gorgeous.
I remember my father only first had, that was you. When he first met you, he used to call you hands because you were always playing with your hands and moving your hands.
Yeah, touching things. Yeah,
Cool,
yeah, that's right.
And a very fond memory I have is when Dad was asked to babysit Jacob one day.
Oh yes, I was left
For 10
left
minutes.
to.
I'd have killed you if I'd walked around the side and found you doing that.
I was left to look after the kids, and I was told I may have to change his nappy, and I've never changed a nappy. Even my own kids, I've never changed any nappy. Had no idea. Anyway, naturally he needed his nappy changed, and when I undid his nappy and the mess that he was in, I thought, oh my God, how am I going to clean this up? So I just picked him up, took him outside on the patio near the drain, and I bent him over, took his nappy off and bent him over, and I got the hose and I hosed him all down, and he's crying and yelling. I was saying, "Be quiet, Jake. I'll be finished soon." Washed him all down and took him inside, patted him down, and then tried to put his nappy on.
No, Karen came around and caught you hosing. That's right, Jacob. Just pull your cheeks open a bit further. Yeah,
But anyway, I did a good job, I reckon.
Oh, do you?
The nappy was on backwards, I remember when I got home. But
Yeah, so, but anyway, poor old Jake.
Yes.
And you also had to learn another hard lesson, didn't you, with babysitting, about not leaving things lying around?
Oh, yes.
I was doing some painting, and Jake and Amber wanted to paint too, so I said, yeah, okay, love, I'll go and got a tin each and a brush each, and I put some water in it, and I said,
Paint the fence.
paint the fence or paint the brickwork and whatnot, you know. That'll help, Poppy. Okay, Pop. So that was the way, and I went away, gone away doing something. I put my paint down, and I'd have a cup of tea, or forget what I was doing. Next minute I came out, and here they are painting. They
got the rollers.
got the roll, and they're painting the my patio. Oh God, there was paint everywhere. I was like, oh jeez, what am I going to do? So they'll take it all. Hey, quite upset because I was upset. I thought they were doing a good job for me.
Oh, well, so they were happy because they were very good children. You know, they were really like, you know, there's children and children. I mean, all kids are nice, but I mean, some kids, you know, you can just not like them. There's about their personality, and you just sort of don't worry much about them. But both Jacob and Amber were beautiful little people. They had their moments.
But you had to be careful when they were quiet.
Yes.
I remember they were quiet for a long time, and then I found them around the side of the house, picking up these stones and dropping them into the
Breather.
The breather pipe on the side of the house, filling it up with stones because it's made a noise. It's a tinkle through the grating and dripping in the water. And I went down there, and there's the trap full of stones.
Full to the top with stones.
And they used to do it every time they came around. They used to always go around the back there, and when they were quiet, I knew straight away where they'd be. They were both around there picking these stones.
I've got photographic evidence of them. I always called them partners in crime.
And then you also had beautiful Jasmine?
Yes, Jasmine came along. Yes, sad the problems with Jasmine, with her born blind and having
A multitude of problems. But she was a very happy, delightful little girl, you know, and laugh. You couldn't. I've never heard a child laugh with such gusto as what.
The one person that could always get that out of her was Adam.
Oh yeah, Adam used to do like the aeroplane coming in and then tickle her belly.
I love his noise. If she was in the room when she always could tell when Adam came in. Her eyes look up, she'd hear his voice and recognise.
Yes, she recognised voices.
Yeah, I know. He was very good, very attentive to her. And then there's our little Bella.
Yeah.
There's a Bella.
Yes, I didn't see much of them because I was living up at Port Macquarie at the time. But she was very active, very strong little girl, you know, and no fear at all. And she really tickled Adam's fancy, you know, with.
Yeah.
Oh, and what didn't she? You gave Adam a lawnmower, and then she filled the petrol tank up with water.
Water. Yeah.
That's right.
A bucket of lawnmower. Yeah, she's like reading, but didn't she? She's very good at reading.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is. She's very good reader. Well, as father is too.
Oh yes. Well, Adam's been an enormous reader. Read 3 to 4 books in a week.
I think she wants to be a marine biologist, I think.
Yes, taking particular interest in jellyfish. I bought her a book on jellyfish, and it's a really nice book. The amount of different species of jellyfish is just absolutely far beyond anything I ever imagined. And the colours, and they're just absolutely beautiful. And like it's worldwide where they are, and it's just it's really very, very interesting. I hope she goes ahead with it. I mean, you sit and you talk to her and that, and apart from the fact she talks too fast, you're trying to listen to what she's saying. She's trying to get it out, but she knows a lot of. Yes, she knows a lot. She's got a lot of knowledge about it. There's one story I remember about Jacob. We'd not long had to have our beautiful Daisy put down, and we needed another watchdog as a security guard type of thing. So anyway, we brought this Jack home. Now, Jack was a cross between a shepherd and a Rhodesian ridgeback, and also had some red cattle dog in him. But he was a powerful dog, weighed about 40 kilos, 42 when we first brought him home. And anyway, he wasn't sure of himself. He'd been at the pound for a long time, and he wasn't happy. And but so we were just sort of taking things easy. And anyway, Jacob, he was only about, I don't know, I think he was only about 3, or I don't think he was even 4. And he went out into the garage, and Jack was out there, and next minute I hear Jacob screaming his head off and crying and coming out of the garage, holding his head. And I said, what's wrong, I said. And Jack walks out with a filthy look on his face and just walks to the other end of the yard. And Jack bit me. I thought, well, that's it. He's bloody well going. I'm not going to have a dog, especially that powerful, in the yard. I said, with my little grandchildren, he's got to go. And I said, why did he bite you? Did you do anything? What? He said, oh, I hit him on the head with a golf ball. Like that. I thought, oh, so Jack got a reprieve over that. Yeah, well, just as well, because I really meant it. Look what we would have missed out on. What a fantastic dog he turned out to be.
Yeah.
You know.
You're always bringing dogs home. I remember that as a kid. There was,
Yes.
couldn't drive down the road.
Look, if
without-
I know a dog when it's lost, and I don't intend to keep them, but I cannot bear the thought of those little creatures who've been loved and fussed over, and they're out on their own, and how horrible some people can be to them. So I bring them home. I have found the owners of so many dogs that it's not funny, and I'm never going to change. So you can just get that right out of your head, Colin. You can tell just by looking at them if they're lost.
They were always on their way home, Dad used
Yes,
to say.
they're always on their way home, love.
Yes.
On his way home, love, he'll be all right.
Oh yes, I know, Cole. Yeah.
Yes, all the washing and grooming of dogs and feeding them and
But
phoning around. trying
what
to
dog
find
have
them.
I ever kept that I found or brought home? None.
Never kept them, but the...
No, you.
White mix.
Yeah, that yes,
yeah,
but
that's
I went to the vet, and I also to see if he knew the vet, because she'd been down there for several weeks, sleeping in the school. I said and sleeping on the nuns' back door mats, and she was a terrified little dog. And the vet said it happens all the time. The old person dies, they come up, take the possessions, kick the dog out, let the dog find somewhere on its own. They're not worried about it. And I just have great compassion for all living things.
Including me.
Yes, I've gotten used to you.
You get groomed and fed, looked after.
You had a pretty significant move as far as distance goes too after Carry On.
Yes, after I'd just finished university, and Colin decided that he wanted to buy some property. So just to abbreviate it, we ended up going north. We thought we were going to move to Queensland, but we found a property in Harry's Road at Crystal Creek, which is in the Tweed Valley, which would have to be probably one of the most beautiful areas in the country. And it was absolutely gorgeous. It was about 6.5 acres, Colin.
6.5 acres at Moorlambar, just outside, 7 kilometres out of Moorlambar. It was a lovely property. We had terrific view up the Tweed Valley and Rough High, and we had it was a lovely big home. It needed a lot of work done to it, and the grounds were in very poor state, and a lot of drainage had to be done. Retaining walls had to be built, but it was, I could see the value in the property. We had a very large swimming pool with a waterfall, spa. The house ticked all the boxes, and but after I said to Ruth, we'll stay here for 5 years, so and then we'll build the property up, and then we'll sell it and move into town onto one of the new estates in a smaller home. And so I started to had to do a lot of work. I was working 7 days a week, from daylight to dark. Tons and tons of rock I had delivered and placed it all by hand, all around, doing the retaining walls and drainage,
The causeways,
and then we had to, like, the mowing of the lawns. In that area, in the summertime, you couldn't go away anywhere because otherwise you'd have a jungle. The lawns had to be mowed twice a week, and having about approximately 4.5 to 5 acres of ground to mow used to take hours just to complete mowing the lawns. And but after a couple of years of getting a lot of the work done, I had it valued, and I thought to myself, well, I haven't over-capitalised on the property. And so when the 5 years are up, we decided to put it on the market, and unfortunately the market had dropped, and so then we had to stay there a couple of years extra until we eventually sold the place and moved
But
back.
we had made the decision that we weren't going to move up to a new estate in the area.
Yeah.
We missed our grandchildren, and I missed a lot of years of. I used to love going up to the schools, you know, and seeing all their little events at school, and going to grandmothers' days where they could sit and show you their work, and they'd you know. It was yeah, their graduation. I remember Jacob's little graduation day from preschool, and it was lovely, you know. And yet, with all those children there, I could hear his voice. I could pick his. He had a quite a nice melodious voice. So that was really nice. I just enjoyed that. And Amber would show me her things that she'd done, and they were all things that I missed out on. And you know, and then when they left primary school, well, we were up there, and so I just missed a lot of stuff like that. And I thought, oh look, God, you only live once, and family really is the most important thing, you know.
Yeah.
So we came back in 2014, didn't we, Colin?
Yes, I was doing a lot of work still then as a consultant with a company called Encarn Associates, and I used to be doing a lot of work for Gosford and Wyong councils, and I was travelling up and down all the time, and I ended up with a big job out at Kincumber, and that was when also I thought, well, we'll move back down because I was going to be on this job for approximately 6 months doing this work, and it was just getting too hard flying up and down all the time. So that was another reason why we came back. Also to be with the family. So and I was glad to get back because I enjoy the area here and enjoy having the family around.
And prior to actually going to Crystal Creek, when you were still at Carryong, you did quite a lot of extensive overseas travel too. So you...
Oh yeah, that was in 2000.
Yeah.
You know, we went over.
Retired.
When he retired, Colin had always wanted to use his long service leave for a really good trip, so we went for about 3 or 4 months. Had cousins over there where we had a base accommodation. Went, you know, we visited about 18 countries, including the United States, and it was very interesting. Very tiring. I couldn't do it now, the amount of walking that I did, but it was very, very nice. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd love to do it again. I'd love to go back to England again now, but I mean, we just recently went on a cruise up to Noumea, and I know I got off the ship and we were walking down to go somewhere, and next minute I'm hanging onto the wall like a drunk because my feet had just given out on me and I couldn't walk because my feet were so painful. So I thought doing anything where I've got to go and do a lot of walking, it's something that I'm afraid is yesteryear for me now.
And you've just recently had a pretty significant family event too.
Yes, we have. The most important one, of course, is my darling granddaughter, Amber, and she married the loveliest boy, Cameron. And they've been going out for, I don't know how long, about 3 or 4 years, something like that. But Karen and I are very fortunate to have such a lovely young man for their daughter. He adores her. They're a very good match. and we went up to Summersby Gardens for the wedding and for the reception, and it was beautiful up there, and we had lovely company. Although I will admit, it's the first time I've never ever had a dance with my husband at a wedding, and it's because, quite frankly, the way the young people dance today, they jump around like they're having fits. And if any one of those young men, there's some really big fellows there, it knocked me knocked me onto the floor. But everybody really enjoyed it. You know, it was lovely. It was just a lovely, lovely evening. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Good weather, and Amber looked absolutely stunning. Mm.